guys, welcome back to the Compliance Kitchen. This is Sylvia, and the CBP, or Customs and Border Protection Agency, recently answered frequently asked questions on forced labor, so I thought that might make a good little podcast episode. So let's take a look at that. So the CBP emphasized their commitment to enforcement of regulations that prohibit imports of merchandise that is either made with forced labor or reasonably suspected to be made with forced labor. CBP explained that they took various actions to enforce these regulations, including issuing withhold release orders, issuing a civil penalty associated with a withhold release order, or WRO, totaling nearly $8.4 million. Altogether, CBP says that they detained over $55 million worth of goods, and currently they have 50 active WROs, or withhold release orders, in place, and 8 active forced labor findings. Now, more on this withhold release order. This is an instruction or a mandate from Customs if they have information that reasonably indicates that a merchandise was made with forced labor and that it is or may be imported. They will issue, the CBP will issue this withhold release order that instructs the ports of entry to detain that merchandise. So then the merchandise can't enter the stream of commerce in the U.S. And this will be the case unless the importer can demonstrate to the CBP that the products were not made with forced labor. Now, in regards to what proof would be submitted, or could help you to get out of the withhold release order, the CBP has published several fact sheets and materials and frequently asked questions on its website. And also they explain that importers can submit evidence they believe is most compelling to show to CBP that their supply chain is free of forced labor. This should be evidence showing that the goods are not produced with slave labor for every shipment suspected of being produced with such labor. So as for foreign entities that are seeking to be excluded from the scope of a withhold release order, the CBP tells us that they can submit more specific information regarding their production process, which could include evidence refuting each identified indicator of forced labor, evidence that policies and procedures and controls are in place to ensure that forced labor conditions were remediated, evidence of implementation and verification by a third-party auditor of the foregoing, also supply chain maps that show locations of manufacturers, farms, processing centers, factories, and so forth. In response to a question on how does the CBP select which goods to investigate, they explained that in the past they would investigate and issue these WROs against goods that were found on the Department of Labor's list of goods produced by child labor or forced labor. Now, some examples of reviewed goods from this list would include gold from the DRC, cotton from Turkmenistan, tobacco from Malawi. That being said, the CBP is not limited to investigating the goods on this DOL's list. So they use now information from other sources, such as non-governmental and civil society organizations, open source information, witness testimony, trade data, records of importers to validate allegations of forced labor, and trace goods made with forced labor imported into the U.S. So obviously this is a summary. There's a lot more to read, and more FAQs to look at. So if you guys are interested in this, or if this is helpful to you, I have a post on compliancekitchen.com, and it has links to these FAQs that they answered, and also to the other materials and fact sheets that talk about the proof that you would be submitting to CBP to be excluded from the withhold release order.